What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am in the final stages of finishing up this custom belt that I am making for a great customer of mine. And I'm about to do something to this belt that I don't do very often, but every time I go to do it, I make a mistake. And I want to bring that to your attention to hopefully prevent you from making the mistake, because it can be very costly. Like I said, we're in the final stages of this belt, so if you do go too far, unfortunately, the mistake can be irreversible. So let's get right to it. So this is a really unique belt with a lot of different elements on it. So it is very unique. And another thing that I like to do sometimes, but I don't do it all the time, but another way that you can spice up these belts and customize them is by working on the liner. So a lot of you guys know the way that I make my belts is they are double layered. So the back side of this belt is actually an additional piece of leather with the top side of the leather out. So this piece of leather right here is exactly how this piece looked before I did all of this finish work to it. And so because it is that side of the leather, you can customize that. And you can carve it, you can actually, I have used a wood burner before. You can burn designs on the inside of this belt. And because it is the inside of the belt, it isn't necessarily that big of an issue, because the only person that's ever going to see that is the person using the belt, unless they actually show it to somebody. So if you do make a mistake, it isn't the end of the world, but as a craftsman, when you're trying to create the best work that you can, it can be very, very irritating when you do make a mistake on the final stages of the project and there's no way to fix it, because these two pieces of leather are glued and stitched together. So to try to rip this liner off if you mess it up and start over, you're risking the entire project. One thing I forgot to mention right here is I like to do all of this liner work after it has been glued and stitched to the belt, because if you try to do it beforehand, then odds are it's going to all be crooked. It's going to be really, really hard to do any work on the liner and then glue and stitch it all to the belt and keep everything symmetrical, even, straight, yada, yada, yada. So you kind of are just at a stage where there's no room for screwing anything up. And so this is how a person would wear a belt. If you're looking at a person head on, and this is how you're gonna see the belt. And almost all the time when I'm working on my belts, that is how I lay my belts down, is I like to work on them with the buckle end on the left side and the tip of the belt on the right. So left to right. Before I continue on, I know somebody's going to make the argument that not everybody wears a belt from left to right. Some people wear belts from right to left. And so everything I would be talking about right now would be flip-flopped. But regardless of all of that, everything I'm going to show you is still relevant and will still apply however the belt is being made and by whoever the belt is being made by. I'm more or less just trying to bring awareness of the situation and to let you know that you need to be aware of this potential issue that could arise if you are working on the liner or the inside of a belt. But if you are planning on actually customizing the liner, you have to keep in mind that this is how the person is going to be wearing the belt. If you just instinctually flip the belt over like this while you're working on it and start doing all your artwork or whatever you're trying to do on the liner, it's going to be upside down. So let me show you a really quick example. This is just a scrap piece of leather. So this is, again, left to right, how I would be working on the belt. We have the buckle end down here and the tip of the belt right here. So, oops, sorry about that. If I just flip this over directly like that, and then let's say I put my last name on it, and then we go to take that belt and actually wrap it around like you would be looking at it as a person is wearing it, and you open that up, it's upside down. So you do not want that to happen. So anytime you're going to work on the liner of a belt, if you do decide to do that, you want to make sure that when you set that project down, you're actually flipping it over like this, where the tip is now on the left hand side and the buckle end is on the right side, because just like I said and showed, when that belt is being used, that's how it's going to sit. And you want everything on the liner to be proportioned correctly and straight up and down and not upside down like that. And I have made that mistake more times than I would like to admit, just because it's so simple to get carried away and just flip it over and start working on it like that. But it will come out wrong, and if you are carving on that liner, then there's no taking that back, and it is permanent. So, and I actually did do it when I was wood burning, using a wood burner on a liner one time. I actually made a belt where the person wanted a quote wood burned on the belt, and I just flipped it over. I was excited. It's the first time I'd ever done it. I wood burned a quote all along the liner, and then I went to actually look at it like that, and it was all upside down. And I actually did end up having to completely remake that belt. And so it can be a very costly mistake, and I don't want you guys to run into that. So always be aware when you're going to try to work on the liner, if you're doing a name or something that you want to be sitting how it needs to be sitting up and down when the person's wearing the belt, then make sure to flip your project over like this and not like this. One other thing you probably noticed, and this is just my personal preference, I haven't finished the edges on this yet. So they have been beveled and sanded and prepped for burnishing, but just if I'm going to be doing any work on the liner, I like to do all of that liner work first, because I'm going to be lightly wetting this liner down to do my carving on it. And I like to do that and then let it completely dry, and then go ahead and finish the edges after that, and then get everything oiled and sealed up and so on and so forth. So I like to let my edges be the final step of the process. And another thing when it comes to working on these liners, a lot of times you're going to see people just freehand these designs out, and that's great. It's a great skill to work on. It's actually something that I have been working on a lot here lately. But as you can see here, I have actually used a pencil to draw this name on here, and that's because I don't like to freehand the names quite yet. I like them to still look symmetrical and accurate, but I am going to be freehand carving designs on this, and so that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention too, because those carves and cuts are permanent. So don't be afraid to take some practice pieces and just practice your carving and practice getting a general idea of what you're going to do. So on this particular belt, I just plan on doing some cool accents on the sides of the name right here, and leave it at that. And so I went through with a couple pieces of scrap leather and just kind of scratched out some ideas to see what I wanted to maybe do, and got warmed up and got a general plan going, and that's what I'm going to try to implement. And a lot of times you'll see people like this belt I'm about to show you, they'll just fully carve the liner freehand, and that can be very, very hard. First, before we get into all of that, some of you guys may have seen this belt on the short I posted the other day. This is the finished product. This is the filigree belt that I'm making for one of my best friends. And so I'm going to highlight some mistakes on this. I'm sorry, Otis, but I'm human, and I wanted to make this video and share it with you guys to show that I am human and I do make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. So this is a really cool belt, and this was the very first time that I actually decided I am going to just freehand the entire belt. Now I did draw out the name just like I showed you, because I wanted the name to look really cool and nice. But all of these other cuts I just freehanded. Now there are some times when let's say this is the liner, where you might take your pencil or something and sketch out some like rough guideline. This is going to be really rough, but like, give yourself some flow lines to work off of, and you can actually carve or draw your design and then carve it just like I would a normal belt. It's kind of ballsy to just kind of freehand these cuts, because you can make some mistakes, and I did make mistakes on this. It does look really, really cool, but the very first cuts I went to make on this, I didn't plan it out. I just started carving, and you can tell it's not too pretty right here. I made some mistakes. I did adapt and make it work, and it actually did turn out looking overall really, really cool and really unique, because none of these cuts are the same. There were no guidelines. All of that is just freehand. So by all means, practice that. Try to get good at it. It is hard. That's why I'm working at my hand at it and trying to get better at it. But it does add a super, super cool and unique feel to the inside of the belt, which doesn't really matter. But when you're making a custom belt and you're trying to really give that custom experience and make something truly one of a kind and put your skills to the test, then it's just another great way to spice up your project and make it look really, really cool, man. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and bring that to your attention as well. So let's start carving up this belt. This is just water. And my sprayer's broke. strop that blade. You want it to carve smooth on this liner. You don't want any screw ups. Alright, there she is. Now, I'm not going to bevel this, tool it, anything other than carve it. I'm not saying you can't do that, but I normally just carve it and call it good. When I get finished with the edges, I'll oil and seal it all up like I mentioned, but otherwise I am finished with it. And it's far from perfect, but we just made this belt that much more unique and that much more special. So it's really, really cool. But please keep this video in mind if you ever go to do this, and I hope it helps you out, because I genuinely don't want you guys to make the same mistake that I have made way too many times. It's not a fun one to make. So y'all be good. If you can't be good, be careful. But till next time, we'll see you.